wanted to thank everybody. So the on-time performance as a whole for April was up significantly. So I think some of that has to do with the weather, but I also think a lot of that has to do with you folks literally managing every shipment every day to make sure it gets picked up and delivered on time. So thank you for that. There were some carriers though that didn't meet the threshold of on-time performance. So we removed a couple, and I think there's 3 or 4 that we're going to put on a week-to-week basis. And the reason I'm doing that, folks, is again, the service has to be in the 90 plus. And if you can't do it, then I have a hard time keeping you on board. And I understand there's things that happen. I understand the thing that's out of everyone's control, but that's why the goal's not 100, folks. That's why the goal is 90. Because breakdowns are going to happen, right? Drivers are going to quit, right? Weather streets may close during the weather. I get all that. But, we got to start whittling down the list of carriers that we want to be strategic partners with here. And, the other thing that happened, and again, I'm not going to name any names to protect the guilty, right? We set some rules, or not even rules, we set some requirements a few months ago. And I thought they were very simple, I thought they were very clear, right? I didn't want any carrier using any agent that hadn't moved at least 50 loads for them. I couldn't have been any more clear than that. And yet I found our second largest provider last month didn't think that was real. So they're gone. And, I was in a really good mood because all I told them was, I can't use you anymore, right? I could have done a lot more to them. And the reason I bring this up is I want to make sure everybody understands going forward, I'm not going to be really nice. If you're using a carrier that has not moved 50 loads for you in the last year, and I find out, and I will find out, I've already reached out to quite a few of them, I'm spot checking. I'm asking you to send me the GPS information on the load. I'm asking you to tell me who the carrier is. I'm asking you to give me the carrier contact information is. And if I find that you're not following the process deliberately, I'm gonna bury you, folks. I can't be any clearer than this. Not only am I gonna remove you from the post office, but I'm gonna remove you from all government business. I'm going to have the Department of Justice and Department of Labor come pay you a visit, because if you're not following that process, you're probably not following all the other processes you're supposed to follow, as far as all the other payment plans, keeping track of records, and I'm going to bury you. So if you're not following the process today, might as well hang up right now, right, and stop taking loads going forward, because this is something that is not going to go away. The rules and requirements are very clear. They're not optional. I spoke to the carrier that was doing this, and they're like, well, our goal was to use these guys so often they would get to 50. That was their logic, folks. And I just told them, stop talking, because every word you say just makes you sound stupid. So it's pretty simple, folks. If you can't follow those, go find somebody else's friend. I mean, I'm sure there's other customers that don't care who you use. I'm sure there's other customers that have a lot less requirements, right? And I'm okay if you say I'm gonna go with them. But if you're willing to stick around, you're gonna get a ton of freight. Because I have a ton of freight. So again, the rules are pretty simple, the requirements, right? They have to be able to speak English. We had another issue today where we had a driver ping-ponging back and forth from location to location. We couldn't figure out what to do with them. It probably took him 30 hours to make a delivery, which, I thought it was a USPS issue, right? And then it turns out the driver didn't speak any English. So who knows if he went to the right place? Who knows if we told him he was going to go to the right place? I don't know what happened because the driver didn't speak English. And that's a problem. So number one, whatever costs are incurred in that, don't even think of billing me. That isn't going to happen. And more importantly, if I find out that you didn't speak English, I'm not going to use you anymore. The drivers have to be able to communicate to the post office people. They don't have to be road scholars, but they have to understand where to go, who they are, what I'm doing, what I'm picking up, if I got a problem, if I'm hurt. And again, other people may not ask for these requirements. I'm not asking for it, folks. And then the issue is conditional. Make sure you're not using any carriers that have conditional safety rankings. And I've talked to most of you. I think a large majority of you do not. But I have to ensure that you folks are using the right carriers, the safe carriers, the legal carriers. And one thing that we're doing here that's different, and I can't demand anyone do it. I would encourage you to do it. There's a company called Highway that provides a really good service. Very similar to Carrier 411, very similar to RMIS, but I think, in my opinion, a lot better. We started using them last week, and they're going to do some really cool stuff that I've been trying to get done here for a very long time, right? They're going to help me identify who are the good carriers. They're also going to help me identify. One of the biggest problems was we run into issues almost every day where somebody does something wrong. And when I talked to you folks, you said, hey, we're going to quit using that carrier from now on. And that's great, but then the other 58 of you still uses the carrier. Or the same thing with the driver. We got a driver that did something really wrong, and you say, we'll never use the driver again. He goes to work for 58 of the other guys. So I'm going to work with Highway and putting together a plan where we identify those people. And then you guys have access to know who those people are. You guys have access to know who those carriers are, and you're not allowed to use those carriers or those people on USPS business. So if you've never heard of Highway, drop me or drop Nick an email after this call, and I'll put you in contact with who you need to talk to there. Now again, I can't demand you use them, but I can demand you use safe drivers and have a way to report issues and have a way to understand other issues that have been reported up through us. Right? The other thing I wrote in my notes here is, again, it's not necessarily a rule, but it's a requirement. You've got to show up with straps. Every load, every day, you have to show up with straps. And we had a situation in Sacramento, and again, I won't name the carrier, but I'm going to call it right after this for a real good explanation. The driver shows up, he has no straps. He says, I'll be right back. He walks out into the parking lot, he jumps into the FedEx truck, he steals their straps. Then he climbs into the UPS truck, he steals their straps. Then he comes back in and says, okay, I got my straps. And the USPS person says, these straps are stenciled with FedEx and UPS. And another one of our drivers came in and said, yeah, I just saw this guy steal the straps. So the driver leaves. Now again, I don't know if we communicated that to the carrier or not. I certainly have, right? And this is the kind of stuff where I don't want that driver ever stepping foot in our property. And the reality is we should have arrested him. But we didn't do that, it's too late for that. But I can't have that guy. And I would strongly encourage you not to use that company. But again, these are things that happen all day, every day, folks, but we gotta try to limit them the most we can. Right? The other thing I want to bring up, and again, I've mentioned this many times, and it's very annoying. Right? I think 2 months ago I said, when you send in the monthly information, it has to be by the 3rd of the month. So this month it went really well. Nobody sent it in after the 4th, which was really good, right? But it was very clear. In the subject line or the title line, you're supposed to put your company name, your on-time pickup performance, and the number of omits. And 8 companies didn't follow that process. So again, you may think it's real simple. Why are you making a big deal? I'm making a big deal because I'm trying to figure out who I want to use here going forward. Why would you blow an opportunity to do a lot of business because you can't follow simple instructions? So next month, I told Nick, if anyone sends it in and doesn't follow that, you could be the best carrier with the best price and the best service, you're done. Attention to details matters, folks. Caring about what we're trying to do here matters. And if you don't care, go find another customer. But the people who are going to stick around are going to get a lot of freight. I mean, I keep telling my team this. I don't know how many calls you guys have with people that control $10 billion of transportation. I don't think you have many, if any, besides me. You have a direct line to me, a direct line to Nick. You have a direct line to 10 billion bucks of business. And you want to blow it for something this stupid? Don't do that, folks. Reality is you don't need any other customers. You just need us. I got enough freight to keep all your companies in business. But you got to be able to meet the requirements. You got to be committed. You got to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, I can't help you. And then the other thing I would ask help on is, there's still a lot of confusion out there with what we're trying to do with fork heights. So I think Scott Davis is on for my team, right? If you're not familiar with what we're trying to do with fork heights, you need to get familiar very quickly. And if your systems aren't interfacing correctly with fork heights, you need to address that right away, folks. That's one of the ways we're going to spot check you when you say, yep, I was there at 10:02 and I was supposed to be there at 10:02. We're going to look in fork heights to see if you were really there at 10:02.
Well, Pete, let me jump in there real quick because we still got some folks that are not showing any loads being tracked, and there are others that have had, we've had kind of a downturn in the last few weeks. Overall, we're in the 70s now. We were above 90 about 5 weeks ago. So I just want to make sure everybody's working towards getting hooked up if you're not already. And if you see problems, let me know if nothing else, but we got to get those things fixed.
Yeah, so Scott, how do you want to communicate that? Do you want to reach out to the folks? And I don't want to call them out on this call. Do you want to reach out to them afterwards?
Yeah,
you want to...
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, but it's important, folks. Again, we need this to understand where you're at. We need this to understand true on-time performance. We need this to understand true delivery performance, which in the past, and I've told you this, we've struggled to do that. This is the only way we're going to do it. But you have to be compliant. And again, I don't think I'm asking you folks to do anything that's that painful. I mean, I'm sure every other customer you have is asking you to integrate with some kind of visibility tool. This isn't any different. I think the other thing we need to really understand is, as we start to pray down the number of carriers, again, is how many loads are you taking? Right? We want to make sure you're taking enough loads to keep you around. But you have to control that. You have to provide a competitive rate. You have to have a driver that speaks English. You have to have a carrier that has at least 50 loads. You have to know the requirements. They have to have straps. And again, if you can't do that, we can't really keep you around. I don't need carriers who are doing 5, 10, 20 loads a month. I need carriers that can do 100 loads a month. If not more. So again, this is one of those where I can't make anybody move my freight, folks. All I can tell you is I got a lot of freight, but I also got a lot of requirements. And if you can meet the requirements, the sky's the limit. I met with quite a few of you in Memphis this week. We had I don't know what to call it, we had a longer version of Shark Tank in Memphis. 17 of you folks came in and you presented to we had all the buyers there. I'm going to do this again, probably, not this month, but the following month. So I'll bring in the next 10 or 15 or 20 carriers to learn more about you, to understand how you guys and gals can become a bigger partner at the post office. But I can't do that if you can't follow simple rules. I can't do that if you can't follow simple, details that we're trying to tell you about, how you send the reports in, what day you send the reports in. So Nick will work on that. Nick will he'll handpick the next batch, but a lot of it's going to come down to how well you're performing now. And if you're performing well, there's a great opportunity for growth. If you're not performing now, just drop out, folks. And if you don't want to follow the rules, and I keep saying, if you're just chasing the revenue until you get caught, don't do that. Because the next person I catch, I told you what I was going to do to you, and it's not going to be pleasant. You don't want to get audited by the Department of Justice. You don't want the Department of Labor digging into every book you've ever sent, and every financial book or every deposit you've ever made. And if you read the contract right, it's not just the company, it's the owners. So you do not want to be in that position. All right, I think the last thing I had is just the volume is going to continue growing. The freight auction, the rates continue to be very attractive, where we are going to move freight that was traditionally on contract to freight auction. And we're going to play this out as long as we can. We're going to see how long the market will last. And when the market turns, hopefully we'll try to time it right and we'll go back to contract. But right now, it's too good to pass up. There's going to be more lanes coming out. There's more air-to-ground conversions that are in the works. And there's a lot of other things that we're looking at as far as, optimizing and revamping the overall network. That all equates to more transportation, more over-the-road transportation, more trucks, more trips, more services. And for those who stick around, for those who continue to make the cut, again, I keep saying the sky's the limit, folks. But you gotta follow the process. You gotta follow the rules, and you gotta be honest. If we cannot trust you, we cannot use you. So let me stop there. I know I think I just went over everything on my list. Nick, did I forget anything? Or Keith, did I forget anything?
No, I don't think you forgot anything, but I mean, if you guys do run into problems, right? This is the place to bring it up. I think we do this every single month. We ask if there's any issues out there. We get the same no questions. And then towards the end of the month, when everybody's struggling with their on-time performance or their tenders, their loads, the sites, that's when you bring it up. This is the reason why we're 79% or 80%, or we're working towards a requirement and we're not obeying a requirement. There's something that you don't understand. We need to know at the beginning of the month, not towards the end of the month, right? So let us help you fix your problem. Because I get it. I get bombarded by emails every time at the end of the month, like, hey, there's an issue with EDI. It's been like that all month. Or there's an issue with these sites. Or Kansas is always closed. You gotta let us know today. A lot of the stuff I don't know until you guys tell me. I mean, you communicating to the site, that doesn't usually get to me. The only thing that usually gets to me is when you're messing up. So do me a favor, help me get it. I can try to get this corrected so you can stand out, but don't wait till the end of the month because they're gonna say, hey, you just keep bringing on terrible carriers. I don't think all of you guys are terrible. I think I have some great people here doing good stuff, and we're just weeding out those terrible carriers now. So please use this as your time. If you don't understand something, or if you're running into an issue out there that you don't understand, so we can try to make a difference.
There's a question in the chat.
Go ahead, was that Renee?
Yes, there's a question in the chat.
Okay. Is there a way to determine on the FA loads what are picks and deliveries? I guess I don't understand the question. Where's the guy?
this is Nita. I can give you a better example. So if we get a load and sometimes it'll have a stop in the middle, but because you pick up, say in Georgia, have a stop somewhere else, but you deliver there and then pick up at the same location and then go on to your final. Is there a way to determine, do you see where I'm coming from? So we can make sure that our carriers know, hey, you have to pick up and deliver there.
That's a good question, and I will reach out to the logistics group and see if they can identify that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
And so Nick made a good point, folks. And again, this is where we use this time wisely. We're here to help, and we know there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong on our end. But if you don't tell us, we don't know how to fix it. Call me afterwards and say, hey, this has always been happening, right? And I'm going to tell you, we should have brought it to our attention a long time ago, right? And we would have fixed it. And we'll, I mean, and I'm not even going to lie to you, we may not be able to fix all of our flaws, but at least we'll understand them and we won't hold them against you.
So, something that we've been running into that kind of affects our on-time performance is when there's let's say it's like Cincinnati to Cincinnati, the scheduled arrival in Cincinnati will be like 8 a.m. and the scheduled departure is 8:07 or 8:12, and it's kind of setting not only us but the facility up for failure because we're only going to depart, even if we depart on time from that first pickup and we get to that second pickup on time, the odds of them getting us loaded in like 12 to 16 minutes is pretty slim. And so then wait an hour there and we're already 45 minutes behind, and let's say it's a 300-mile run, all of those little minutes kind of stack up.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. But remember, folks, I'm only asking you to report what time are you supposed to be there and did you get there, right? I'm taking away all those other excuses because I know we delay you at times, right? So I want to know, what time did the tender come across? What time were you supposed to be at the facility, and what time did you get at the facility? So I mean, stop and make sure everybody understands. That's what you should be reporting. I'm taking away all the other excuses away. Step one is you're supposed to be there at 8 a.m. I got there before or after 8 a.m. Yes or no? If it's a yes, you're on time. If it's a no, it's no. And then eventually I'm going to move to the next part that talks about, all right, now you're supposed to deliver at midnight. Did you get there at midnight? Yes or no? But the stuff that people are self-reporting now on should only be, hey, I was supposed to be at that site at this time. Per the tender. Did you get there on time? Yes or no? Now the other stuff is going to impact your on-time performance score in our system. And we do need to know that. So yeah, send that information to Nick, send it to whoever you need to send it to, but we need to fix that to say, hey, it's impossible to physically load you in 7 minutes, even if we got someone waiting at the gate for you.
Do you guys have an updated, sorry?
Go ahead.
Do you guys have an updated pitch and catch file? A couple of the places we've tried to reach out to for communication on whatever it may be, some of the locations aren't on the file that we received, or that we had.
Yeah, I'll take a look and I'll see what I can find.
Yeah, I mean, guys, but let's be honest. The minute we send it to you, it's outdated. We have 621,000 people that work here. Someone's going to quit every like 30 seconds, right? So again, that's a challenge on our end. We know we have to fix that. And if you're not getting a hold of somebody at that facility, then there's a generic email you should be calling. I know Nick gets emails all the time. I get them every once in a while, right? Control what you can control. We'll try to fix the other stuff, but it's never going to be perfect. That list is going to be outdated the minute we send it. But we should be going through, I don't even know what they call it, Nick, the NOC or whatever that centralized headquarters is for getting all those emails and all those requests.
Yeah, currently it's that J&J email. It's going to be Earl's group, and they're going to supposedly or hopefully they have staff around the corner. I know there's at least 2 people each shift around the clock to help direct traffic. I know they're working on a solution. I think it might be a NOC. I'm not sure. Some kind of command center, but they're just not there yet with that. So you just got to utilize the tools that you have now. I'll tell you right now, the most successful carriers on the list, they don't really have problems because they built those relationships. So work on that too, right? So figure out who you have that relationship with on that site, lock it in, and that person will help you out every single time.
Nick, I've got a question. More or less a follow-up from the last call that we had last month on EDI. So we saw a heavy amount of delays earlier in the month, and then it kind of dissipated. But even this week, we saw one, and was just wondering, is it possibly due to the amount of volume that you guys are adding onto the portal that's causing some of these delays, or has there been identified the reason for them?
I would just give you a made-up answer. I don't know the real answer. I don't know if it's volume, them onboarding a bunch of people. I'm not sure, but I can figure it out, and I know they're working through it, right? So, not sure where it is. I think they're always going to have EDI issues until they get everybody set up in EDI. But Scott, do you know anything about the issues with EDI?
Not as far as latency or anything like that. Are you talking about for setup, or are you talking about for actually getting tenders to you?
Getting tenders to us.
No, there shouldn't be any EDI reason for that. If I don't know if it's
Scott, I spoke with Taylor about the clear conversions, and she actually spoke about this. There's a lot of contracts that are being moved over to clear. I don't know if it's impacting freight auction, but she was looking at potentially doing a daily volume, like a week in advance for contracted freight, because she felt that there was a lot of stress on the systems and whatever. So
Yeah.
maybe that has something to do with the freight option. I'm not
If
sure.
that would be the case, it would be once a week. It would be Wednesday afternoon between 4 and 7 or something like that. It wouldn't be any other time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so
I know that's being discussed, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, help us out here. So it better not be volume because we haven't put 20% of the volume in the system yet, right?
Right.
So, but what we're hearing a lot of is, right, JB says, hey, tender comes across, it says pick up at noon, he accepts it, but he doesn't get the official notice for a lot longer, right? So as soon as he says, I'll pick it up, or as soon as we tell him go get it, we need to send that EDI, as quick as possible. And I'm hearing from other folks too that sometimes it's taking hours before they even get that.
Yeah, I don't know that would be a technical or process related.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just guessing there's something to do with the system. I mean, if they're
Yeah.
set up to do it, it's not happening at every time, then it's gotta be a glitch on the system, and that certain ones are being delayed.
On our end, we're seeing a lot of SE trips not populating for these shippers. The drivers are getting on site. The shippers are not having that SE trip number for our drivers. We've been just having them hang tight, reaching out to the locations and our surface planner. What's the best plan of action when there is no SE trip in the system, and or these shippers provide them or kind of make up their own SE trip and send our drivers on the way? We need to be having these guys kind of hang tight until we get further, communication from these sites and or surface planner.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the planners and see how they want to handle that. Because I know some shippers won't even give you the load without the SD ID, right? So you're just sitting there for hours waiting for 5 digits to populate, and they're like, okay, you're ready to load. So I'll get with I guess Mike and Earl about that.
Yeah, Nick, you should probably invite Earl or Taylor or Mike to these calls going forward. These are the issues that they need to fix right away, right? And again,
Yeah, I think they were invited, I believe.
Okay, well, I'll encourage them to attend. I don't want to have different policies at different sites. I mean, the policy should be the same everywhere. You get an order, it comes through electronically, information is on that tender. You know what you're getting, where you're going, what time you have to be there.
Hey Nick, I had another question regarding some canceled loads. I know sometimes we have drivers show up, the shipper says, hey, there's no load available. We reached out to service planner and let them know. They say, well, it's up to the site to cancel. They have the site email address and nobody responds. I think recently we had one, I don't know the facility or the site, but like 2 days, 3 days, we still haven't gotten a response. Obviously the driver's not still sitting there, but can we forward that to you for approval?
Yeah, copy me on those too, right? So I want to make sure everyone hears that, right? I want to know if you guys show up and guys or gals, sorry, show up and we tell you there's no load. Because I've been arguing with ops for this for many months now. And they tell me it rarely happens, and then I get phone calls or I hear of a few, and somebody's telling me I'm only hearing about a small percentage, right? So email me, don't call me in the middle of the night, right? Email me and say, here's the order number, here's where we're at. They're telling us there's no freight.
Okay, thanks.
For clarity, please, are we still padding the time that comes over on the tender by an hour and then reporting at that time as our scheduled check-in time? We had a handful of incidents that relate to the last few points where drivers were either delayed or turned around because SV numbers didn't match, and they were deferring to the fact that it was part of the clear compliance that was messing that up, and that we're kind of past that problem.
That's a good question. I'll get back with you on that.
Yeah, so again, I think we like to blame Clear for everything, right? Brett Rainey's no longer here, we can't blame him, so now we're blaming Clear. So we gotta quit doing that. I think the bigger question though, and I don't know, Nick, if you have an answer, right? So are we telling the carriers to show up at the time of tender, or are we telling them to show up an hour before that tender?
Yeah, so it's, as I know, it's still that 1 hour prior, so I know there was that issue unless they changed it, and if they changed it, they've never updated me with that information, so I'm gonna have to follow up. Because I keep hearing that they're showing up hour prior, they're being turned around because they're too early, or they're not there in time, or they have nothing. So I gotta get with Earl's group to see if that was ever corrected in the system, but right now, as I know it, it's an hour prior to whatever that tender is.
Okay, that's how we're operating, and I agree, and we've seen a mix of both, where some sites seem to have incorporated that and understand that it's an hour before, and others are doing exactly what you described.
And that could be the issue. They could have just all talked to the sites, and some of the sites are trying to make up for that while they're scheduling it, and it's not clearly communicated across the board, but I'll get some clarity on that and have them, give me whatever the final answer is.
And Nick, there is an associated question in chat. Can I chat again on that?
Okay, pick up departure time. Yeah, okay. I'll definitely look into that answer for you. I'll get it to you today.
Yeah, and I think, Nick and Scott, we gotta get a line on, again, I wanna measure these folks, and I wanna hold them to the requirements, but if we internally don't know what the requirements are, we're in trouble, right? So again, it should be real simple, right? Every site should do the same thing, Earl's in charge of all of this. So Earl needs to communicate it to everybody. He has to have everybody in alignment, and then we can come and cascade that message to the carriers. I would think, the other thing that is happening, folks, there's a lot of confusion, right? As far as overall performance. And, somebody was getting ready to show the PMG a report yesterday that said freight auctions is at 60% on time. And I told them I wouldn't show that, because if you do, I'm gonna tell you that number's wrong, right? So Scott Davis, again, is gonna help us. You folks are you're self-reporting those times. We have an SV system that also reports those times. And then we have the Forkite's GPS system that reports those times. So it's very important that you folks are putting the right times in, right? And these are the ones I'm spot checking, to be honest with you folks. If I see, I look at every one of those reports. Every week, I look at every one of those reports that you send me. And I look for the ones that says, hey, the tender came across at 8:40 in the morning, and it was supposed to be a 9:20 in the morning pickup, and I got there at 9:20. That's amazing if it really happened. But I doubt it really happened. And I'm asking you to send me the GPS breadcrumbs so I can see that. And yeah, it's really easy for you folks to fat finger those numbers. It's really easy to change those numbers so you're at 90%. But again, don't do that, folks. You're gonna kill yourselves in the long run. Be honest, and if you're not meeting expectations, we go our separate ways. Things happen. Don't lie on the data. We are gonna scrub every shipment from every carrier and bounce it off SV and bounce it off GPS. So report actual numbers. And we'll fix the issues on our end, and you folks have to fix the issues on your end. And if you got partners that aren't showing up on time, stop using them. And we'll get to the point where we've got, 20, 30 carriers that we trust, that we know can provide the service, and you're gonna be the carriers that'll last one standing. But we're not there yet. And every month I find something else that people are doing and they know they shouldn't be doing it, but they're still doing it. And that's the part that frustrates me. You're blatantly lying to me. And that's not how you build a partnership. Okay, any other questions, folks?
Yeah, just one more. Just one more, and Chad showed up. If a trip finishes at one of the stops and not the final destination, how do we close out the entire trip in trade auction? You've got to go to final destination. Anything else, you end up in a payment inquiry. You've got to run the trip as scheduled. If you're receiving on the dock that hey, they want to make a change, email that back into the team using the planner's email. But essentially, you've got to finish that trip as written.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So this is not that I need more emails, right? But I want you guys and gals to email me on that too, right? And by the way, when you email me on these things, in the subject line, I want you to put urgent freight auction issue, right? And I want to know, again, if we're having you go somewhere that is not aligning to the order or the paperwork, we shouldn't do that. If we're telling you not to go somewhere that was aligned on the paperwork, we need to know that. And I cannot fix it unless you folks tell me about it. So again, in the title or the subject line, urgent freight auction. Now, don't use this for everything, folks. Don't call me and say my guy's at a place and there's 3 trucks in front of him. These are for important issues, that ongoing issues that we want to fix and we need to know about. And then, before I forget, the other issue is, we implemented that new procedure for reporting accidents and incidents, right? Within 24 hours. Some people still struggle with that, right? They don't know what a major accident or an incident is, right? So we define it. Well, let me tell you what it's not. It's not, hey, I backed into a mailbox, right? A major accident or a major incident is somebody is hurt, somebody is going to the hospital, or a major incident is something like we pull out of your dock door and one of your loaders is still in our truck, right? That's a major incident or a major accident. And even, let me go back there, I'm not confusing. Even on the accident, it doesn't mean, it's not only when someone goes to the hospital, right? We had a rollover 2 days ago. Nobody went to the hospital. That's major, folks. I mean, again, use some common sense here. But we need to know within 24 hours. I don't need to know all the details, because you may not have all the details. But I need to know we had an accident in Chicago, Illinois on Highway 94 at 4:30. Somebody hit our truck, and somebody's in the hospital. That's a good starting point. And then we'll get more information as we get it. But it has to be 24 hours. And someone didn't send it 24 hours. Keith, I sent it to you. I want some action on that. Somebody needs to know they gotta follow the policy, and they need to know what happens next. And don't be afraid to report an accident, folks. I mean, as much as I don't like them, they happen. And most of them that I get, they're not even they're outside of our control. I can't control when somebody rear ends a truck. I can't control when somebody pulls out in front of you. I can't control that a drunk driver hit it. I can't control that, but I need to know about it. No one's gonna get in trouble for having an accident, right? Unless you did something so bad that, I mean, the driver didn't have a CDL, the driver was drunk, you knew about it, you didn't do anything about it. That's the stuff that's gonna get you in a little trouble. Reporting it, though, is not gonna get you in trouble. Okay, last call for anybody? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
One
Another
more
one
question.
We got another one, I saw that, another one came up in chat. When a site cancels a trip or a driver is going to be late, is that counted as a trip omitted or are self-reporting regardless of how late or what ETA was provided? I would say it depends. You can't come the next day and say, yeah, I was running late. Obviously, we've already gone to plan B with the mail. So I would say in your self-reporting, if we denied the trip, when your driver showed up, if we denied the trip, show that as an omitted, not a late.
Yeah, no, what I've been telling everybody is, omitted is, you won the load, and then you said, hey, you know what, I need the fat fingered, I don't have the capacity anymore, and you just gave it right now, right? So, that's omit, that's what I wanna know, did you omit those trips? Obviously, if you cancel the load after the pickup time, they're gonna call you a no-show anyway. So that's what I want, right? If they cancel because, hey, I'm gonna be 30 minutes late, and they don't like that 30 minutes late, we'll let them cancel it, and that's not omitted on your behalf. You ran into some issues. But as Keith said, I don't want you to go and, hey, I'm still looking, and it's like 2 days later, hey, do you still need me to pick that up? That's a problem. But the chances are they're probably gonna cancel it anyway, right? That new time's not gonna work. We're gonna put that mail on something else, or we have someone else that can run it. So I'm worried about the ones that you're awarded, and then you're like, you know what, I'm not gonna do this. I can't do it because I'm doing it for 2 cents a mile because I fat fingered it. Or, my truck, the guy's sick and I can't do it anymore. Recover that, right? Do your best to recover that and get someone there. So that's what I'm looking for a bit. I don't need but multi-layers, omit, cancels, by site, no shows. I just want to know how many you were awarded that you decided to just get back to us.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So that's the other thing, folks. I mean, really just don't omit, right? You signed up for a load, you gotta move it. And if carrier 1 backs out, then figure it out.
Hey, so.
And you may have to pay more, you may have to lose some money on it.
Yeah, yep.
But that's the other reason I have you reporting omits. Omits is a big problem. You signed up for the load, folks, you gotta move it. Again, I don't think I'm asking for anything outside the norm here. And if you're gonna be late, you should call the site and say, hey, my first driver called off, or an issue happened with the first carrier, I'm sending another one in there. Right, that's the other thing we want you to report, right? On the subject line, my company name, here's my on-time performance, and here's how many omits. And we're gonna start removing people if you have excessive omits. But I don't think, again, we're not asking for a lot, folks. We're asking you pick up our freight on time, deliver it on time. And if you can't do that, don't bid on it. Somebody sent me an email that said, hey, can we get some relief on all these shipments that only give us like an hour between tender time to go pick up? And I said, no, why are you accepting them? Why are you bidding on them? If you can't make it, don't bid on it. Or if you want to bid on it, put a different time in there, do that, but don't expect me to say, hey, all your lates were less than 2 hours. Why did you accept them? We'll figure out a different way of shipping them. Again, folks, control what you can control. Don't worry about all the other stuff. There's too much that we gotta fix on our end that you guys don't need to worry about that. Worry on, I got a driver, I can move it at that time, at that price, and I'll move it 100% on time. And we'll deal with the one-offs. Okay, I think somebody else is getting ready to ask a question. I heard somebody talking.
Yeah, it was me, Eric, of Transportation One. Pete, I do have a question in regards to putting a new time. I know that you mentioned last month that you were going to get rid of that. So are we back to that opportunity, or are we still not allowed to do so?
Still working on it, right? So I gotta get with the planning group. They are not looking at the times anymore, so it's gonna have to be an internal conversation.
Understood.
So they just don't have the people to look at it and actually update it. And even if they do accept it, they're not changing the time anyway.
10-4. I do have a question, and it's more of a clarification of something that happened today in one of the sites. We went to pick up a load. We were there on time. It seems like some new post left with the wrong mail load. We were requested to go back. We went back, but the overall time consumed, it's going to put the driver out of hours to be able to meet that final delivery. What do you want us to do in this situation? We were thinking about probably sending a relay driver to haul that trailer to try to meet that delivery as quickly as possible and not have to get the overnight email saying, hey, where is the shipment?
Yeah, if you can rescue it, rescue it. If not, just make sure you're communicating to the site that says we're going to be late. Here's why we're going to be late.
Okay, thanks.
All right, folks. I know some of you are going to be at the National Coastal Forum, so I'll see a few of you there. Tuesday is the Transportation Day, right? So Joy is speaking, Kelly Abney speaking, Robert Cintron, myself, I think Dennis Hayner are all speaking. So if you're going to go, I encourage you to go on Tuesday. And if you want to sit through the whole thing, you're more than welcome to do that. I know some of you are sponsoring, booths or sponsoring a lunch or something while you're there. Thanks for doing that as well. But I think you'll learn a lot by going. I think you'll get to spend some face time with not only the folks that you talk to all the time, but the rest of the people, the Earls, the Mike Melendrezes of the world. So if you haven't signed up, go to the website, try to find the Tuesday only seminar. I think it's $250 or $299. Do that one, it'll be well worth your money. All right, folks, we'll talk again next month. Thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good work on the on-time performance. For those of you that are not weekly monitoring system, please focus on, again, don't sign up if you're not 100% sure you can do it. Because if we put you on the weekly and still can't get to 90, then you gotta take it off.
Yeah, there's only one additional person I'm gonna give a call, but I think the other three know. So I'll call that individual after this call and let them know kind of what the requirements are. Friday to Friday, right? So send in your on-time performance every single Friday, measure it Friday to Friday.
Yeah,
it's 90%.
Yeah, so it's gonna start basically today. So anything you picked up today to next Friday, send the weekly report to Nick and I, exactly the same format, right? In the subject line, company name, how many loads, your on-time performance, your on-time arrival, and then any omits.
That's just for the poor. That's just for the poor individuals that have been identified. They know who they are. I don't want like everybody doing it at the moment. Just for 4 individuals.
Okay. All right, folks. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.